Welcome everybody to my first ever Star Wars Unlimited video. This video is going to be talking about Set 1 Limited, and we are going to start by talking about how I choose to rate cards. Pay attention, there are skips if you guys want to go to certain parts of the video, but without further ado, let's get into how I rate my cards. It's a pretty standard list, S through F. I've always liked this one as opposed to the 1 through 5, but I don't know, I just always like rating cards. It's pretty fun, right? I like the debate, so debate me. Let's go. So S cards are cards that you open them and you're saying, yeah, I need to be playing these colors, this class, like this is what I'm going to be playing. That's what an S card is. Switch to me. A cards are very powerful cards. They're a step up from B, obviously, but they usually can 2-for-1. I usually give, more late game cards. You'll see in this video, I do have one early drop that makes the A list, and we'll talk about why. But A cards just apply a lot of pressure or 2-for-1. B cards are good. They're always included. Nothing wrong with them. They're good cards. They have decent stats, and you want them in your deck, right? Your deck will probably be mostly consisted of C cards, which come next. They're just fine cards. They're playables. Um, there's nothing special about them. Your stats are usually on rate, and we'll talk about stats a lot since this is the first video. So their stats are on rate, but maybe their effects don't really do much. They're just bodies. Finally, we go to the D and the F tiers. Um, we'll talk about F first. They're just terrible cards. You don't want to play them. I feel like red has a bunch of just terrible, terrible cards. Very expensive effects that we really don't want to be paying for. And D cards, you'll end up with a few of these in your deck, but the stronger your sealed deck is, the more D cards you can cut, right? They're the last editions, or sometimes they're just niche cards that you're trying to be a little bit sneaky with, but most of the time they're just not going to work out for you. All right, but let's talk about the cards, right? That's the exciting part. This list, is pretty standard. So here we go. We're going to go to the cards. And I don't know about you guys, but I'm very excited to get my hands on them. But we're going to talk about Ardent Sympathizer first. This is a great example of a C card. It's a 3-mana 3/3. Sorry if he's the mana, I can use resource too if you guys want. Three resources, 3/3. While you have the initiative, this unit gets +2/+0. So even if you don't have the initiative, I would say its stats are about 1 below. I think I would be looking for a 3/4 or 4/3 in a 3-resource card. But when you do have the initiative, it goes a little bit above rate. So this is a pretty example of a card that's completely playable. Nothing wrong with having this in your deck, and you probably will, as it is a common. Moving on to the next card, we have Benthic 2 Tubes. Now, I think I'm going to get flack for this card because this card is very different from sealed to constructive play. And in sealed, I would give this card a D. I would be looking to cut cards like this. This is a 1-mana 2/2 that has a pretty strong effect, but the problem here is if you don't know exactly how the game works, right? You play it and it comes in tapped. You go to your next turn, and maybe you play another guy. Benthic 2 Tubes is not doing anything for that other guy on your turn 2, right? Because that card is also in play tapped. So unless you're playing 2/1/1s on turn 1, this card is not doing much. And it's sometimes hard to get 2/1/1s unless you draft a bunch of them, or unless we're trying to. Sorry, this is sealed. Unless we open a bunch of them, and what is not always likely and requires it to be red. So I need to open a bunch of red 1/1s, play them both on turn 1, and hope that they don't get removed, right? I won't have the initiative since I played 2 cards. So it's very different. Very different. And after we talk about the red cards, before we talk about good guys and bad guys, we'll talk about all the leaders. But you'll see how I rate Sabine later. Pretty sad. All right. Next card, Bombing Run. This card is interesting. I think you can really, really blow someone out sometimes playing this card. but I think most of the time it's going to be very bad. I give this card a D for being a little bit too niche. It's not an F. In Star Wars, you can resource any card you play, so technically everything's playable because it can become a resource, but still, let's go back to Bombing Run. But dealing 3 damage, usually probably to the arena that you're not playing in, and killing 1 to, more guys is very strong. At 5 mana, though, it's a little expensive to only be dealing 3. Things that come down at 5 mana usually have 4, 5, 6 health. So it's only going to be finishing off things or damaging things. And if you're just damaging things for 5 mana and that's your whole turn, that's pretty slow. But again, like you can have situations where this card is just insane. But I think those situations will not come up too much. And for that, I'm making it a niche rating and giving it a D. Next up, we have Katina Braggart, and I just talked about 1 mana cards. I would say that this card is incredibly below rate. Um, if we go back to this is a 1 mana 2/2, it totals 4 stats and has a decent effect. This card has the same effect, but 1 less stat. Um, Obviously, it gives it to itself, but if you play this on curve, and you're going second, and your opponent has a 2 mana 3/2, this card dies for free. And that feels awful. And obviously, it can trade in to the 3/2, but only if you have the initiative. So half the time it just dies for free, and half the time it trades evenly. I don't feel great about it. And again, if you're playing 2/1 drops and this card is never trading evenly, it's just dying for free. So I really, really don't like Katina Braggart, and for that reason, we're giving it an F. I think this card is completely unplayable. Sometimes you're probably going to have to add this card in your deck, but I would really, really, really not look forward to playing this card. It is very bad. Moving on, we no reason to talk about the base. Maybe we could talk about the art. Let's give it A for art. Yes, looking forward to these hyperspace cards, right, guys? All right, A for art. All right, disabling Fang Fighter. We give this card a B. You're going to see that I rate space units a little bit higher than ground units on average. This card has 2 below stats, but because it's a space unit, I'd say it's only 1 below stat. I'll add 1 for being a space unit, just because I would say space is a little bit more evasive in this game. So it gets 1 free stat for being a space unit. So what do we lose for losing a stat? Well, we get to defeat an upgrade. I would say that effect is niche, but you're putting it on a slightly below rate card. But again, I really like space units, so this card was pretty close to a C, but I think it just makes it into the B range, because whenever you do play this card and you kill an upgrade, you turn this card into like a super S, like just kill something for free and also establish a dude on 3 mana. Like that is very, very strong. So when it's doing nothing, it's probably just a C card. But other than that, it's way above rate. Force Throw. Now, to look at this hyperspace, looks pretty nice. Now, I've thought a lot about Force Throw, and man, this card is terrible. Absolutely dog. So if you don't have a Force unit, you're spending a card to remove a card from your opponent's hand. That's kind of like a 1 mana do nothing. It's like you both lost a card, but you lost a mana. So not really ideal, and you're not adding to your board at all. Now, if you have a Force unit, and you get to deal damage to something, that number is random, which is a little bit annoying because you don't know what's going on. But if you're sneaking this card in the late game, like when you guys start getting 6, 7 resources, well, you might only be discarding really high cards, and then you just kill something. A 1 mana card that does 5 damage and kills something and makes your opponent discard a card is very strong. So for that reason, when you have a Force unit, I'm rating this card a B. Any type of removal and sealed is usually gets a little bit boost of a rating. Removal is premium. So I'm gonna give this a B if you have a Force unit, even though it has that RNG factor of your opponent just has a 1 cost in hand and doesn't do much. 1 mana, discard a card, deal 1. Probably like a D effect. but with that huge upside of sometimes you just kill something insane. And I think more often than not, that people shouldn't be playing many one cost in their deck. So 1 mana deal 2, pretty strong card. So let's go on to Force Surrender. Here's an example of cards that are just completely unplayable in red. Even the hyperspace doesn't look too fancy. Maybe it does when it's shiny, but yeah, I would never ever play this card, ever. Okay, just don't play it. Obviously, if you're way ahead and you hit them, draw 2 cards, and make them discard 2, you're like, wow, plus bajillion, right? But that scenario is only happening if you've already won the game. Otherwise, don't ever play this card. Probably goes. Even constructed, it's not too great, but yeah, 6 mana. In my opinion, this card does nothing. So 6 mana do nothing is an F tier. Okay, man. Now I'm looking at this base, and I think I overrated the other one, but that's okay. All right, now on to Infiltrator skill. All right. You're about to learn something else about me, and I don't like, some games called equipment, attachments. This game, it's upgrades. I don't like them. I'm going to give this card an F. I also think it is so weak. 1 resource to give +1/+1. Obviously, you can put things above other things with that, but you're spending a whole card to do it, and you're ruining your curve to do it. I'm just not about this card at all. I think adding Saboteur is almost irrelevant on a card like this. Obviously, it could do really cool things for you later in the game, but because of the turn cycle of you go, they go, you go, they go, your opponent gets a response when you create some sort of evasion on your card to get around their sentinels. Jedha Agitator. Now, if I say their names wrong, I'm sorry, but Jedha Agitator, I give a. Can you guys guess it? F. All right, another F tier card. Now, this one, I think people could argue, hey, this is a cuttable card. Its stats are kind of bad, but it has like this effect. Well, you need to control a leader unit, and this card costs 2, and it has 1 health. So I don't know what scenario allows you to play this card, have the leader unit, it stays alive, and you get to swing with it. And wow, you did 2 damage, and maybe another 2. This card is incredibly niche, in my opinion, and its stats are so below rate, like 2 below rate isn't that much, except when you're talking about a card that you can play on turn 1. 2 below rate on a card you can play on turn 1, that's bad. Bad. Especially, we're going to talk about, as soon as we're done with just the solo red cards, we're going to talk about the leaders, and we're going to talk about why having 1 HP is not good right now. Now we're going to keep fighting. We have a slew of crap cards, guys, and keep fighting is also going to be an F. I would say, this card is incredibly niche. It's very specific on what it can ready. And let's talk about the best case scenario for keep fighting. I hit you, or I trade up with one of my guys. My guy stays. I go keep fighting, and then I either hit you or trade. Maybe I trade up again. That's probably very unlikely, but let's say just trade and kill something. So I lost a guy and keep fighting and 2 mana, and you lost 2 guys. So you could say I kind of did removal, but I took some time to do it, and my card was already going to remove the second card if you traded into me, which is very likely in this game. People trade into you back. So you're kind of doing an action for your opponent and playing a card. Again, some of these cards, can be very aggressive if you have the aggressive deck and you could just kill your opponent. But when I play limited in these games where I get random cards, I look for value most of the time, and not some high roll aggressive deck. So that's just personally my opinion, and I've had a lot of success with it in many games. So keep fighting is an F tier card, and this card looks really nice. I kind of want to see its hyperspace now. I'm sure it's out or revealed somewhere, but I'm gonna rate this one above the other one. I like this one better. So if you have the choice, pick this one, guys. The city looks nice. Okay, on to mission briefing. I know we're talking a lot, but this is a talking video. So make sure we're relaxed somewhere. Mission briefing costs 3 resources and you draw 2 cards. This is a good example of a cuttable card. Obviously, you gain 1 in value because you spent 1 card to get 2, Pot of Greed, but you had to pay 3 to do it. It's something that probably never happens on 3 resources unless you want to fall behind on board. So it usually happens probably on 5, 6, 7 resources when you can also play another card with it. And again, it's slow. But in the super late game, when you're top decking, this card is pretty strong. But other than that, it's pretty slow. It's a cuttable card, but you play it if you have to, and you know you're not like the saddest drawing 2 cards. It's a value card, just slow. Occupier Siege Tank. Man, I feel like you guys are like, this guy hates red, and I don't. I think red is pretty strong once we start getting into villainy and heroic, but um, Occupier Siege Tank, a 5, resource 5/4 that has grit. 4 health is incredibly different than 5 because of open fire, and because of that, this card is just a D. And man, if it had 5 health, it'd be totally different. But at 5 resources, this card is pretty slow. It dies. It trades down really sadly to a lot of things. 3 resource, 4 cards, even sometimes a 2 resource card. So I'm not really a big fan of the siege tank, but you know sometimes it just has to go in your deck. That's why it's a D. Finally, I get to say something nice about a red card. Open fire, deal 4 damage to a unit, looks pretty amazing in the hyperspace lands, and this card is an A tier card. It is premium removal. It can hit space or ground units, and you want every copy possible of open fire. And I'm going to be honest, even if you're not playing red, you probably consider putting this in your deck still. Like this 5 mana deal 4, not a great rate, right? Excuse me, but it is something that I'd probably pay for in limited, and so keep your eye out for open fire. This is going to be in almost every deck if the person has it. And now we get to Partisan Insurgent. Partisan Insurgent is a 2 resource. Oh, it has a hyperspace. This looks nice. Is a 2 resource 1/4. While you control another red unit, this unit gains Ray 2. Now this is a much better version of the 1 mana 2/2 because this one gives it to itself. It also has good stats. It adds up to 5, 2 and 3, 3 and 2, 1 and 4. These numbers add up to 5, so it is on rate, and it has an effect that puts it above rate. Because of that, it is a B, right? If it did not have this effect, you know, I don't know if it would be D or C, but it can maybe make it to C. I really like 4 HP in this game. At 2, it lives against most of everything, so you'll be able to trade up with this a lot of the time. Going to a 3/4 is no joke, and it does it right away. So this card is a B. All right, Power Failure. Back to the dog cards. Let's go. Defeat any number of upgrades on a unit. Now, obviously, you could plus 20 on this card, but that's not happening, guys. Don't play this card. I know you're like, hey, I can play this card because I can always turn it into a resource. No, you want to turn your C cards into resources and be playing B cards, right? Or your D cards into resources. You don't want to turn F cards into resources. You just don't want to be playing them. So do not play Power Failure. It is way too niche. There are not that many upgrades, and upgrades are bad anyways, in my opinion, so don't play Power Failure. All right, Precision Fire. Now these cards that have these 2 techs, I usually give 2 ratings for. So pay 1 to attack with a unit against Saboteur. I told you that it's not that relevant. So we're going to give an F to the first part of that. And the second part, if it's a trooper, it also gets +2/+0 for this attack. And yeah, that's the rest of it. Okay. So if you do target a trooper, you're paying 1 for Saboteur, which I think is worth about, say, a quarter of a mana, maybe. I don't know. Not much. And then if we put on a trooper, we're getting +2/+0, which I don't know. Maybe it's worth half a mana. I really hate this card. It is a straight up F. FF, double F. Doesn't matter if you have 100 troopers. FF. Yes, don't be playing Precision Fire. And I'm sure people will, though. I'm sure they will, because they're like, hey, I could +2 my guy and then trade up. Well, you just 2-for-1 yourself. Good job. Must be nice. All right, Smoke and Cinders. Each player discards all but 2 cards of their choice from their hand. F. Another F. A lot of these solo red cards are F tier. I think I could get a big debate about this card, and maybe one day move it to D. But your deck needs to be very aggressive for this card to get to D tier, and you need to be winning on board when you get to 5 resources. Hope your opponent's playing control. Play it and just like ruin them. But I say that, but people can draw 2 cards a turn and not resource if they want to. So I really don't know how I feel about this card. No, I do know how I feel about this card. I don't know how I can be convinced of it going any higher than D. It's just way too niche and too slow, and it does nothing. And yeah, who cares if your opponent's discarding? All right, bad card. Bad card is bad. All right, finally a good card. Star Wing Scout. Man, if Darth Vader, which we're about to talk about soon, if Darth Vader wasn't guaranteed, I think this card would be S. I think you would see this card and be like, yeah, I'm playing red. But because Darth Vader is guaranteed, I think a lot of people will be playing Darth Vader, which again, we're about to talk about. But nonetheless, this card is very strong. I'm going to give it a B tier rating. If it gets killed by Vader, we're a little sad. Maybe we resource against Vader. But otherwise, this card is really, really good. Hitting them for 4 with evasion because it has a space unit, right? Again, we're adding 1 to its stats. So this one adds up to 6, which is good. But then it has this insane effect where if your opponent kills it, you draw 2 cards. Like, what is that? Like, that is disgusting. I don't know. I think this card is disgusting, but it is at 1 HP, so we do have to lower it a little bit. But I really like this card, and yeah, you should be playing them. We give it a B. Tarkin Town, nice. Not too much to talk about this card. If you guys get the special bases almost in any color, you should very much consider playing that color. This is an S. You see this card, and you should want to be playing and switching to red. Yeah, like, would you rather have a base that does nothing or a base that does something? I'd rather have a base that does something. You guys ready for this? Wampa. You're like, man, this guy has hated on cards. But we're going to give Wampa an A. Thank you, game, for finally giving us a card that has on-rate stats. So 4 mana, 4/5. And we're giving it an A just for having on-rate. Overwhelm is whatever. If this card didn't have Overwhelm, maybe it's like a B+. But the Overwhelm moves it to an A, and a 4 mana, 4/5 is actually an A just because of the pure lack of them in red. And 5 health, evades open fire, so we are pretty happy to be seeing Wampas. And it's a common. So I'm going to love to see this card. If you ever played Hearthstone, it's Chillywind Yeti, and Yeti was strong in set 1. All right, Wampa's going to be strong too in the limited format. Oh, finally, the last red card. And, I'm going to be honest, guys. Don't know if it's Wolf. Don't know if it's Wolfie. Please let me know. Probably Wolf, just spelled insanely. All right, it's a 2 mana 3/2 with Saboteur. And when played on attack bases, cannot be healed for this phase. This is a good example of a card that's playable. It has 2 niche effects, but it's on a card with on-rate stats. So that's really all I have to say about it. I don't think the second effect will really come up too much in sealed, and the first effect will come up sometimes, but nonetheless, you play this on turn 1 and you can feel fine about it. And yeah, so we finished the red cards. So again, I'm going to segment this, and now we're going to move on to the double red cards, which is, there's only 3 of them. And right after we're done talking about the double red cards, we're going to talk about the leaders for both good guys and bad guys. So the double red cards are all going to get a primary rating based on the fact that you need to be playing double red to play them. And we're going to give Rallying Cry and Saw, again, don't know this guy's name, sorry, Herrera, probably Herrera, that makes a lot more sense. We're going to give him Fs. So Rallying Cry is a 3 mana double red. Each friendly unit gains raid 2. Obviously, if you have a big board, this can do big damage, but double red means we need to be playing double red, and in sealed, that's usually not viable. So you don't really want this card in your deck because most of the time it's going to cost 5. And 5 mana for this effect is absolute dog. So we're giving this an F. And then let's say we are playing double red, we just got a lot of red cards and we like aggression and we want to be aggressive. I'd still give this card an F. I don't like pump effects, especially ones this week that are just for the turn. No, no thanks. All right, and then Saw Herrera. Again, I would give this card an F because a 6 mana 5/4 is just way too below rate. Now, 4 mana 5/4 is the rate, right? So we're 2 resources more than being on rate, and I'm going to give that an F. I would never pay 6 mana for a 5/4. I feel really, really sad about that. Again, you could probably make the argument to put it into D, cuttable, but yeah, 6 mana 5/4 too much. All right, but now let's say we're playing double red. I'm going to move this card into a B. It has really, really good stats. Its effect might not do anything, but it could. And even it triggering one time makes this card a lot stronger. But just like the Chillywind Yeti we talked about before, 5/4 is good. 4/5 is better. 4/5 would move this card up another tier, but 5/4 is fine. But again, we probably don't want to be playing double red. Now we could talk about the card that the whole class is named after, and there's the beautiful picture. Now, if this card is outside of its double red arena and it costs 6, you're probably not the happiest with its effect. You probably most of the time are choosing to draw a card and deal 4 damage to you. Sorry, I just had to draw a card for the camera, but yeah. Draw a card and deal 4 damage to a unit on 6. It's not what we want to be doing, but I think that's just a cuttable effect. Now in double red, this card is obviously just very good. It's an S tier card. It's the one that says I have a lot of red cards and I got an aggression, and maybe you got a second aggression. Okay, this is where I would start thinking about playing double red. Is I got 2 aggressions, or I got aggression and the base. I'm gonna go double red, and I'm just going to steamroll, right? This card on curve on 4 mana, very, very strong. You have that premium removal tag of dealing 4, but then you just have this versatility of doing a couple other things, but usually drawing a card. Whew, we did it, guys. We got through all the red and double red cards, and now we're going to move on to Heroic. But first, let's talk about the leaders. So we're going to scroll down a little bit, and we're going to go to leader number 1, which I did just totally go over them. Okay. Kasane Andor. And I really like this leader. We're going to give him a B, just tell you that right away. His effect is you could tap him. If you dealt 3 or more damage to an enemy basis phase, draw a card. I think that's a reliable effect. I think dealing 3 damage to a base can happen pretty much on demand from the majority of the game. And then, yeah. His flip side has Saboteur, which again, not worth that much, but it makes his ability a little bit easier. Just when you deal damage to an enemy base, doesn't have to be him. You may draw a card. And he comes out at 6 as a 4/6. Again, I like that 6 health. I think that makes him a little bit stickier than other heroes. And we're going to give him a B. And now let's move on to Sabine Wren, and let's receive some hate. Hate for this card. And Sabine, I'm sorry. Just be glad I didn't give you an F. If you really like this character, rejoice, because D. Yeah. Paying an action to deal 1 to each base is pretty bad because you lose the initiative almost 100% of the time. And you're hurting yourself, which it's sealed is not the best. Now, I will say this damage is like, unpreventable. Like, you're hitting them for 1 100% of the time. So it could just win games like that, but I don't think it will. The best part about this card and why I think it becomes a D is because when you're able to flip her, she's a 2/5, which are pretty good stats. That's fine, right? On 4, 2/5. The on attack still hurts yourself, which sucks. I guess you could see the gun. She's just shooting back at herself. Just tell her to turn it, and she'll have more success. Deal 2, right? But nope, 1 to both of us, and I just don't really like this leader. I think you much rather play Andor over here, if you had to choose. Let's talk about the black leaders, right? Why are we talking about leaders first? Well, we have all these red cards, and now we're deciding which if we want to be good guys or bad guys. And oh boy, Darth Vader. We're finally getting to him at the million-minute mark in our video. We could have talked about him first, but Darth Vader. Now, ooh, here's our different kinds of Darth Vaders. And now we get a Darth Vader and a Luke Skywalker for free just by playing in the event. So you'll always have them. And not only will you always have them, but Darth Vader is an S tier card. This card is very good. The on demand deal 1 damage to a unit, and also just their base for whatever reason, is very good. But also when he flips, obviously it comes down at 7 resources, but it's another strong effect where he's huge, 5/8, and just dealing 2 to every unit now. Not every unit, but any unit, every turn when you attack. Darth Vader is a boss, and it's very, very warping because this is a guaranteed card. And a guaranteed card that's an S means, hey, I should be looking to be playing red and black because this is guaranteed. Like before you do anything, if you guys have ever played One Piece, it's like how you always just play Kid in the limited. So Vader is very good. Yeah, S tier, and you're going to see a lot of them, and I would actually try to be playing him. So yes, look for Vader. It's free. It comes with it. See if you have the cards that can go in the Vader deck, which are red and black cards. You even get to play another color. So I would always be playing Vader. All right, we're getting to the other leaders, and this is sad, right? Because Vader is free. Like you get Vader, and now it's saying, oh, I've opened this other red black leader. That sucks. That sucks, man. All right, Grand Inquisitor F. Can't believe I'm getting a leader in F, but we're doing it. This card needs to be built around, and I don't get to build around when I'm playing sealed. There's no build around happening here. So we're giving this card an F. It's a fact. If you guys want me to read it to you, in case you're just listening, which I recommend for this video, is deal 2 damage to a friendly unit with 3 or less power and ready it. If you control 6 more resources, deploy it. So, yep, kill my unit so it can attack again. Can't attack if it's dead. Luckily, when it flips over, it only does 1 damage to a friendly unit with 3 or less power, but it's still just bad. Don't play it. Just play with Darth Vader. Okay. If Darth Vader didn't exist, then probably I would be giving it a D, maybe C, but Darth Vader does exist. So yeah, we got this guy. He looks pretty nice in the hyperspace land. IG-88. IG-88, we're going to give a D to. I think his effect is very minimal. The best part about this leader is if you want something that comes out on 5 resources. I think his effect won't happen as much as you think it will. Unless your deck is constructed just to have a lot of small guys, and then you just have him as your 5/4 finisher. And I think that's a niche deck that won't happen that much. But if you do get all these aggressive pieces, then you can look to be playing IG-88. Otherwise, just play Vader. Like if you want to play red-black, just play Vader. Very, very strong card. All right, so we've rated all the leaders, and it looks like we probably should be playing red-black instead of red-white. But let's look into the cards to see if that holds true. So we're starting with black 1, and I've actually went back and forth. I originally looked at this, and I was like, maybe this card is an S. Like, holy moly, the value of being able to draw 3 cards twice sometimes, right? That's pretty good. And after a lot of debate with myself, I've moved this card down to the C tier. I think its stats are just a little bit underwhelming. Only sitting at 4 means it dies to open fire, which is unlucky. Sorry guys for my nose. Just a little allergic to the world. But anyway, 4 mana 4/4. Just 6 mana 4/4 just dies to a lot of things. It comes in really late. It has that space tag. Has a space tag, so we can add 1 or maybe 2 to its stats since it's in the later game. But yeah, its stats are bad, but it does draw you a lot of cards, and I do really like this card as a top end in a deck. That's a little bit more aggressive. But also even in your slower deck, like I can filter out these bad cards and really look for these SA pieces in my deck. You're not going to be seeing this card that much at Legendary, but when you do see it, I think it is just a C, just a playable card. Fighters for Freedom is a 3-resource, 3/4 Saboteur. When you play another red card, deal damage to a base. All right, can you guys predict the rating? It's 3 resources for 3/4, so you know it's on rate. And it has this Saboteur, which is worth almost nothing. Okay, maybe it pushed to a B, but with this other effect, it gets pushed to a B. Dealing extra damage here or there to a base is really nice. It's probably not dying the turn you play it, so it probably always does about 1 damage, at least, to the base, which is fine. But you're going to like these stats, guys. Trust me. You're playing these 3-resource, 3/4. You're going to like playing these stats. You're going to like the 3/4s, 4/4/5s, 5/5/6s, if we get one. But, you know, you're going to like playing those stats. Trust it. Trust it. For a cause I believe in, and I'm sure this card is something that a lot of people believe in, but sadly, it is bad. F. I think it's going to be pretty hard to build your deck around this card, and I don't even think really you should, because it's pretty much only good when you're killing your opponent at the end of the game. People might say, well, I can resource this card most of the game. And that's why I considered giving it a D, but because of the deck building restriction of needing just a bunch of good guys in your deck, I think it's going to be a little bit too tough to play, a little bit too unreliable. I have to see this card maybe doing 2 damage, and that's just not enough. Obviously, it does win games sometimes, but it's not the type of card that I would be looking to put in my deck anytime soon. But hey, maybe I'll eat those words, and you guys let me know down in the comments below. All right, we got Green Squadron A Wing. Man, I love this card. All right, holy moly. I actually haven't seen its hyperspace yet. And that looks really nice. I really like the red that goes around. Okay, this is a 2-mana 1/3. And we talked about space units getting that 1 bump, so it's actually perfectly on rate. A perfectly on rate space unit sounds really appealing. Oh wow, has this a great effect. This card has evasive because it's in the space, and all of a sudden it's getting +2/+0 while attacking. Woo! Yeah, I like this card a lot. A lot. Hit them for 3 every turn until they're dead. That's why we give this card an A. And I almost wanted to give it an S, and it's a common. Holy moly, this card is going to win games. It's also really, really good against itself, which is kind of annoying. But hey, just win the die roll, go first, and always win. All right, moving on. Gorilla Attack Pod. I'm going to give this card a C. It is a 6-resource 4/6 with grit. When played, you get to ready it if a base, either person, has 15 damage on it. I'd say a 4/6 is probably a cuttable card. A 4/6 that comes in ready to attack probably actually moves it up all the way to a B. And I think when you combine these two, it goes to that C rating. So yeah, I'm not a fan of the art either. It's really boring. All right. Heroic Sacrifice. Again, probably receive some flack for this one. It's 1 mana draw card, so you can say you're cycling it out, right? You're spending a mana just to find a new card. It also has the added benefit of being able to swing, like it swings right away. It doesn't cost 2 actions, and the attacker gets +2/+0. So maybe you're trying to trade up with it. In fact, I would only try to trade up with it because your unit dies at the end of combat. Heroic Sacrifice is a card that I do not like playing. This type of card is not for me. I don't like pump spells. You won't see me playing pump spells, probably. And for that, I give this card an F. Which again, probably debatable by you guys. Moving on, we have K2S0. Pretty sure it's a 0, guys. Bear with me. I'm the most knowledgeable, but we'll get there as we continue to make videos and learn more about the Star Wars universe. But we have a 4 resource 4/4 with Overwhelm, which is a whatever effect, does a little bit more damage. When defeated, for each opponent, choose one. Either deal 3 damage to that player's base, or that player discards a card from their hand. So sometimes you get a 2-for-1 because it trades into something, and they make them discard a card. And for that reason, I give this card a B. It's a good card. You probably never cut it. In fact, you shouldn't ever cut it. Should go in your deck. It's 1 below rate, but has this effect where you can 2-for-1 sometimes. Now, if this card was on rate, it was a 4/5. With the same ability, it goes up to an A. That's how much one stat matters. So keep that in mind. All right, Carbast. A friendly unit deals damage to an enemy unit equal to the amount of damage on the friendly unit +1. In my mind, this is 2 mana, deal 1. Terrible. D. I mean, that effect I'd probably give it an F, but sometimes, it has the upside of dealing a little bit more damage, and there's just not much removal that is available to you in Limited, so you sometimes just have to play removal. If your deck has absolutely 0 open fires, this might be your only removal spell, in which case it's maybe an S in your deck, right? Not an S, but it's going to be one of the better cards in your deck because it's the only thing you have to remove stuff, and you need removal to play any card game, usually. So, but overall, this card's just a D. It is cuttable, especially if you have other removal pieces. All right, we're getting to my boy Mace Windu. Almost done with the good guys. Mace Windu, 7 resource. Look at that shiny, shiny, nice card. I really like these guys that he's just murdering, I guess. But 7 resource, 5/7. Has ambush, which I rate pretty premium. Coming in and killing something right away is like grounds for 2-for-1ing. And not only that, but after he comes in to try to 2-for-1, he is ready to swing again. The fact that I see this card killing something, hitting the face for 5, and then demanding your opponent kill in the next turn, a 2-for-1 that also can deal 5 damage to the base, is the reason I'm giving this card an A. I think if you open it, you really want to consider playing red-white. Again, not an S. I think it's really close to an S, though. It's just it's an expensive card, so it's not like we can always even make it to 7, even though I think we should be if we're playing our game on curve. Red 3. I like red 3. I like this card a lot. I'm going to give red 3 a B. It is a 3 resource, 2/3 space. So let's move up 1 stat, which means it's only 1 below rate. And then it has raid, which brings it up to rate. And then it has each other friendly good guy gains raid 1, which puts it above rate, right? After all these effects go into play, I've now created an above rate card. And because of that, it is B. Also, space cards, I think personally, we want to put almost all the space cards in our deck. So play red 3. The really cool thing to realize about it is it does not just work on space units, it's every friendly unit. So this thing can buff your whole board. And an evasive card that's buffing your whole board that maybe your opponent can't deal with really is unstoppable. Okay. Sabine Wren, not the leader. This is a 2 mana 2/3. Has a really, really nice hyperspace variant. Completely changes. I wonder if this is a showcase because the art changes. I have no idea. But this card is on rate. 2+3 is 5. 5 is the number we're looking for on 2. You can play this card on turn 1. When you swing, you get to deal an extra damage to the base. Or you, again, kill these 3/1s for free that people shouldn't be playing. Don't play 1 mana 3/1. But yeah, I don't really see your other effect coming into play too much. Probably almost irrelevant in sealed, but it has these on-play stats that also can deal damage. So Sabine Wren gets a B, and she's a lot better than her leader counterpart. Only 2 cards left, guys. I bet we're excited. Maybe we're getting tired of this long, long video, but here we are. I hope you're not tired. Thanks for watching, by the way, guys. Don't forget to leave a comment. If you guys like the video, do hit the like button. Subscribe if you guys want to see my next limited review video. You enjoyed this one, and you're like, hey, I can listen to this guy the next time I go for a car ride. All right, that's where I listen to my videos. So, all right, Spec Force Soldier. It is a 1 resource 2/2. When played, a unit loses Sentinel for this phase. Sentinel is really strong. Have you guys noticed how many red cards have Sentinel? That might be concerning for you and something I might talk about in the future. But making a card lose Sentinel is not really worth that much, and 1 mana 2/2 is an F. But it is a card that I guess you could play, so I'll give it a D. I'll be nice to this card. You know, it's not completely unplayable. It is a card with stats, I guess. So we'll give it a D. Good job, Spec Force Soldier. You made it there. All right, we get to Zeb. Everybody likes Zeb. Do we have his? Don't have his hyperspace. Sorry, but Zeb, 5 mana, 5/5, which is usually the rate of 5 mana cards, but it should be 6/5 or 5/6 is what we're looking for. But it has this really strong effect where if you get to go to your next turn and swing with it, you're starting to 2 for 1. If your opponent can't deal with this card right away, oh boy, starting to 3 for 1. Right, just smack them in the face for 5 after we kill their board. This card's really good. Zeb is an A. It's another card that says, hey, come play me. Come play this class. Come play red-white. We want you. And also, look how cool this card looks. Like, just play it. Actually, for the cool rating, I should move it to an S. S for cool. Whew. Okay, guys. Again, you can skip around the video if you want. Maybe you hate the good guys, so you just skip to the bad guys, which we are going to start now. And actually, if you guys counted the cards, there's one less bad guy. So that's sad. Probably because they have 3 leaders. But all right. On to the first card. We have the Mr. Admiral himself. He has a pretty uninspiring effect where on your following turn, you can turn him sideways and play an Imperial unit ready. Okay, but if you have the initiative, your opponent probably doesn't get to ready anything, and it probably works out pretty good. If you don't have the initiative, your opponent can just swing with their thing first and play around this completely. So it has like this weird like in-between thing going on. And I don't want to overthink that too much. I'm sure there's some cool stuff you can do with him, but at the end of the day, it's just a 2 mana 2/3, and I'm going to give that a C. I think like you really don't want to be untapping your opponent's card, and I don't know how good it is to bring in something untapped by not attacking, right? Just view this guy as a 2 mana 2/3 that sometimes has this niche effect that you really want to use. All right, do I even click on it? 1 mana 3/1 F. No, it's it's a D. It's a card you want to cut. I really don't like 1 HP. If you're playing against Vader, this might as well be an F. But which again, you will be seeing a lot of Vaders. Vader is very strong. 1 mana 3/1. Literally has no text box. What's the point? It's just a D. Emperor Palpatine. I'm excited to play this guy in green. But it is an 8 resource 6/6 with Overwhelm. When played, deal 6 damage divided as you choose among enemy units. That's pretty good. Isn't specific in any way. Also has Overwhelm. I don't really know why this card is Overwhelm. Maybe it's thematic, but it's only a 6/6 for 8. So Overwhelm is whatever on him. But the when played effect is pretty strong. I'm gonna give Emperor Palpatine an A. He just the ability to 2, 3, 4 for 1, right? I can kill multiple things. I can deal the damage how I choose. Maybe even 6 to 1 thing kills a lot of stuff. And me just killing something and establishing a big dude is pretty nice. And if you guys have noticed, red does not have many big guys. Like this is it. This is the cream of the crop. We're not coming in with big spaceships in this class. But good for you, Emperor Palpatine, getting that A. All right, Fallen Lightsaber. So, Fallen Lightsaber is a 3 resource, +3/+3 on a dude, as long as it's not a vehicle, which is restrictive. And if the attached unit is a force unit, it gets to deal 1 damage to ground units when it swings. Let's say you attach this to a non-force unit. We're going to give it a D. I do think this is a pretty on-rate buff card, but I don't like buff cards because it lets you get 2-for-1s. But since it's on rate, we'll say it's playable, but also cuttable, which is a D. And if we attach it to a force unit, we get this awesome effect where we're dealing 1 damage to ground units, and I think that shifts it to a B. But like, keep in mind when you have these dual ratings, your deck might not have many force units. You might only have 1. Might just be your leader. And is it really worth it? Because this effect is much better early game, right? I want an early game force unit. I want that. I think there was a two resource force unit, and I want to be equipping it to that, and then swinging, killing something, and like that's what makes this card B. That would make this card a lot stronger, but that doesn't really happen too often. And for that, it's a DB rating, which probably puts it around a C overall. But I don't like equipment upgrades in this game, and it can just easily be killed by the really strong spaceship that people should be running. Anyway. Oh, well, here's a force unit that costs 3 right after it. Fifth Brother. Hello, Fifth Brother. 3 resource, 2/4, gains raid 1 for each damage on him. It's like raid grit combined. I don't know. On attack, you may deal 1 damage to this unit and 1 damage to another ground unit. I don't like that he hurts himself. His stats are 1 below, but the rate obviously puts him on rate. And because he becomes an on-rate unit, he is just a C. The added benefit of dealing 1 damage to something is just another reason why we're not playing 3 mana 3/1s. That way our opponent can't be punishing us with playing this card. But again, it's playable. You're going to put him in your deck, and sometimes he's going to feel really good. Now, Fifth Brother is something that I could see being really wrong about, and just being really annoyed. Mostly because of the fact it's optional, right? You don't have to deal damage to himself. But yeah, I don't know. I do think this card is very playable, and I might be convinced of it being a B. The more I talk about it, the more I think it could be up there in a B. But we'll keep it a C for now, and we'll see how it goes. All right, first Legion Snow Trooper, the first guy to ever fight in the snow, is a 2 resource 2/3. So already you guys see this is on rate card. And while attacking a damaged unit, it gets +2/+0 and Overwhelm. I don't know how often this card's going to be attacking a damaged unit, but it is an on-rate card that you can play on turn 1, and for that it's playable, so we're going to give it a C. Don't think its effect is going to come into play that much. Let us move on to Force Choke, an actually very strong card. Force Choke is a 2 resource card that says if you control a force unit, this event costs 1 less to play. Okay. 1 or 2 resources, still both good. And what does it do? It deals 5 damage, and that person can draw a card. Pretty good. Can even do it to yourself if you're crazy. This is premium removal, though. We don't really care that technically we're 2-for-1ing ourselves, because the onboard presence of dealing 5 for 1 or 2 resources is so cheap that you could be killing a 6 resource card for 1 resource. Which puts this card incredibly above rate, and is the reason it's an A. Another card that says, hey, come play Vader. Got Force Choke. Moving on. Force Lightning. It's a 1 resource card that says choose a unit. It loses all abilities for this phase. All right. If it stopped reading there, that'd be an F. Let's continue. Then if you control a force unit, pay any number of resources and deal 2 damage to the chosen unit for each resource paid this way. All right, Force Lightning is actually a really good removal card. I'm gonna give it an A if you control a force unit, and an F if you do not control a force unit. So maybe its overall rating would probably be D or C. I'd say the lower ratings really push it down. I wouldn't average it out necessarily, because this card is absolutely useless when you don't have a force unit. But when you do, it's really premium. The fact that you can just use all your extra resources to kill anything is very nice. right? On 3 resources, this thing does 4. That's open fire. But again, you need to have a force unit. Very restrictive, but if you do have it, it is premium removal. These are the 2 leaders, which we've already talked about, guys. I know we only have 3 cards left. The lightsaber, I don't believe, is in the set, which is really sad. Let's talk about the Imperial Interceptor, which does 3 damage to a space unit when it comes in at 4 resources, 3/2. So 4 resources we guys talked about should be 4/5/5/4. So what are we, like, down 4, but it's a space unit, so we can go up 1. So this card is 3 off rate. 3 off rate is really bad, but sometimes it also kills a unit. And the ability to just also kill a unit sometimes is actually worth so much that this card goes from like a D in stats to a B. So when the Interceptor kills something, this is going to feel like the best card you've ever played in Sealed, literally ever. But it doesn't always kill something. But when it does, whew, you got to feel good about it. And guys, this is a common. Like, you're going to see this card. Yeah, it's spooky. It makes red, the idea of red like space units, like, so much better. Just like you just rule the space in the early game, but then you have no big guys. So, but yeah, just consider that this card is a common. You're gonna see a lot of it. It is a very very playable card, especially when it's killing a space unit. Ruthless Raider is the biggest space unit I think Red has to offer. It's 6 resources for a 4/6. When played and on the death, it does 2 damage to an enemy base and an enemy unit. We're going to give this card a B. Its stats are a little bit off rate, but it's a space unit, so you can pop one up. It's starting to feel better. And killing a little dude once or twice is pretty nice. This is a playable card, and having a booty with 6 means it can stick around. If you are able to resolve this on an open field on turn 5 with 6 resources, and you just deal with your opponent's cards every single turn that they play, this card will end the game. It's really hard to remove, and you can just hit him for 4 every single turn. I debated giving this card a higher rating, but again, it is an expensive card, so we're just giving it a B. Last card, the 7th Sister. And this is a force unit, which is important, and it's 5 resources for a 3/6 Saboteur, whatever. But when this unit deals combat damage to an opponent's base, you may deal 3 damage to a ground unit that opponent controls. This card is very solid. It's like the definition of a B card. You can ignore their dudes because that's Saboteur, right? And you can just go face and then deal 3 damage, and then she doesn't take any damage. That's really, really strong. But, again, she's only a 3/6. I'd say she's too off rate to be able to deal 3 damage in a creative way. So that's why she's only a B. Now, if we upped her stats just a little bit, I'd give her an A. Whew. Okay, guys, we made it. We're done. Everything's amazing. Back to this home screen, my conclusion. Thank you guys so much for listening to this video and or watching. If you just stared at my face the whole time, that's great. But if you guys just listen to this, I really appreciate it. If you have any feedback you'd like to give, something you want to see in the next video, something I should add. I did have one recommendation, maybe some music in the background. And if you guys want to hear that, let me know. But otherwise, this was the end of my first video, and please look forward to the next color in the next couple of days. We're going to be moving on to green next, so we can command our opponents. Anyways, thanks again for watching. Peace, guys.